This is FBG Jen.
And FBG Kristen.
And I'm FBG Margo, host and producer. You're listening to the podcast that will help you keep a lid on the junk in the trunk and inspire you to live a happy and confident life.
Each episode, we chat with motivational experts and celebs and share our own candid adventures in being healthy.
If you're looking for a podcast that's equal parts hilarious and enlightening, well then welcome to the Fit Bottomed Girls podcast.
Today's episode is sponsored by My Skivvies, a monthly subscription service for undies that are as cute as they are comfy. And ladies, these are designed for workouts and your everyday life. Just pick your size and your style, and you'll never have to think about what's in your panty drawer again, because badass women need panties that live up to our adventures. Now, let's get into the show. Welcome back to the Fit Bottomed Girls podcast. This is FBG Margo, and on the line today, we have FBG Jen.
What up, people?
And we have FBG Kristen.
Hey.
And so this is part 2 of our interview with Whitney English. I thank you guys so much for coming back. If you listened to the episode before and you're like, oh my God, I need part 2 because I just listened to part 1. Yes, this is part 2. She is a fantastic guest. She really knows her stuff. Kristen and I gave her a whole bunch of questions and she had great answers to them. She's all about the science, guys. So that's what this is all about, science. But we were talking about in this episode about food photography, and we were talking about Instagram and stuff like that. And so I wanted to talk to you guys about etiquette and, taking pictures of your food and your meals. And what do you think about that?
So people have strong opinions about this.
They do.
I wouldn't even say we ran something on Fit Bottomed Eats. I have to find that post. But it was like, I think they asked people, is it rude or is it not rude? Does it annoy the server staff or, and it annoys a lot of people. And I kind of get hold on, let's stop life so I can, take a photo, or I'm a chef and I created this, specifically to be eaten when it was brought to your table. And then you spent 5 minutes getting the lighting right and moving around so that you got the perfect picture when really you should be enjoying it. And I am not someone who, I certainly do not take a ton of photos of my meals by any stretch of the imagination. But I do find that if I'm at a new restaurant, or especially if it's a special occasion or I'm on vacation, I will almost always take pictures of my food because I feel like I love food so much. And usually we, especially on vacation, we'll take time to research where we want to go. It's not like we're just popping in a place we drive by. We're looking at Yelp reviews and going to a place that's really good. And that is part of my memory. That's part of my trip. That's part of my life in that moment that I do want to look back on and be like, oh yeah, we had those awesome fish tacos in Morro Bay back in, a few years ago. Remember how cool that was? And sometimes food is just so beautiful and bright with different colors the lighting's really good. And I'm like, oh, that makes such a great shot. And I don't always, usually, unless I'm taking over the Fit Bottomed Eats Instagram account at Fit Bottomed Eats, unless I'm sharing stuff there, I'm not sharing those pictures on my personal Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that on my personal social media, but I'm saving it for myself because it's just a delicious memory that I want to remember. And I don't care if that makes anyone mad when I take my photo.
Yeah. So I think it's really interesting because I sort of try to know who I'm with and where I am when I decide whether or not I'm going to be doing the food blogger thing. Because if I'm in a dark restaurant, I just don't bother. The pictures are going to look terrible. I don't worry about it. But if I'm on a press trip and going to that specific restaurant for that meal is part of the experience, then I might get a little high maintenance about it because that's part of my job, I might, and often I'm there with other bloggers and journalists. So we're helping each other out. Hey, you light from this side and I'll take the picture here and then I'll share with you and whatever. But yeah, when I'm just out as a regular person, not working, not somewhere because I'm covering it for a story or anything, I just sort of play it by ear. If I've got good lighting and a beautiful meal in front of me, then yeah, I'll probably snap a picture. Or if it's something really weird or interesting, or I went to the farmer's market a couple days ago for lunch and ended up getting this pizza with blistered shishito peppers on it and some sweet corn. And I mean, it was a non-pizza type of pizza, but it was delicious and really interesting. So I was like, heck yeah, I'm going to take a picture and share that and see what people have to say about it.
I had food envy of that. I was like, I want to eat that.
It was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was really cool. And, I had a friend who was like, you don't eat Hawaiian pizza, but you'll eat that. And I'm like, oh no, I love pineapple on pizza. So it started an interesting discussion, which I would love to know how you guys feel about pineapple on pizza. I think it's fantastic, but I know not everybody
That's a
feels
big
that way.
no. It's a hard no for me. I'm a New Yorker. It's a hard no for me.
So anyway, but I also have gotten much pickier about what pictures I will take and share. Like I said, I don't take them in dark restaurants because they don't look good. I don't take a whole lot at home and share them unless it's for some sort of story, or like when I do the Insta story on Fit Bottom Girls, usually, once a week or once every other week. A lot of times I'll just kind of share a recipe that I'm making. So yeah, that's not going to be like high quality, professional grade photography, but you're going to see what I'm actually making as I'm making it. And I think that's kind of fun in and of itself. But I also, if I had like a softbox and a whole system for like shooting things and making it really pretty beyond my little, I currently have a white poster board that I sometimes set up if I'm really trying to get a good shot. I might do a little bit more.
See, I don't really take photos of my like daily meals because I think people would be instantly bored because I kind of eat the same stuff every day or at the same time. But when I go out to eat, if it's really special, I like to take a picture of it because, like you said, I like to mark the moment. And then I'm very lucky. I'm friends with people who are amazing cooks and chefs and pastry chefs. And so every once in a while we get together and hell yeah, I'm taking a picture, and I'll even make a little video of all of my images like I did for Easter this past weekend. And yeah, but that's yeah.
You had some great pictures.
That was so cool.
That was so much fun. So yeah, it's a part of marking the occasion to me because like my friends, they put a lot of time and effort. My friend made like the Peter Rabbit cake, and then she made an Easter lamb cake. And one was like red velvet and one was carrot cake, and all the icing and everything. Like, I feel like they put so much time and effort into it. Like that's part of marking the moment, is taking a picture of it, right?
Yep. So wait, was the red velvet cake like the armadillo cake in, was it Steel Magnolias?
Kind of like that,
like,
yeah.
Where you cut it in and then it's like red inside?
Exactly.
I just took that to a morbid place, but I bet it was delicious.
It was so tasty. And then she took the coconut and she dyed it green, so it would look like grass. It was so cool, you guys. It was delicious, and she put a lot of time and effort into it. So yeah, of course I'm going to do it then. But like I said, I'm not one of those people who takes a picture of every salad that I make for myself or something. I think that's incredibly boring.
And I do think it's a compliment. Like if I make something for someone, or we have someone over for dinner and they're like, "Stop, let me take a photo." They're taking photos of their food. I'm like, dude, we killed this, man. Good job. Like, this is great.
Awesome. All right, so I say we just go right into our interview with Whitney. What do you guys say? Part 2.
Part 2.
Remember, this episode is sponsored by Love My Skivvies, a monthly subscription service for undies that we absolutely adore. Ladies, you got to check them out at lovemyskivvies.com. Okay, that's LUVMYSKIVVIES.com. And for being a listener, you can even save 25% off your first month. Just enter the code FBG, that's for Fit Bottom Girls, FBG, at checkout, and you're good to go. Again, that's lovemyskivvies.com, LUVMYSKIVVIES.com. Whitney English Tabai is a registered dietitian nutritionist, certified personal trainer, and founder of the website YouTube channel Whitney ERD. Whitney's mission is to help readers make educated decisions about the food they eat by providing evidence-based information on popular nutrition topics and sharing healthy, original recipes that fit her predominantly plant-based nutrition philosophy. She's been featured in outlets such as Good Day LA, Bon Appetit, People, Today's Dietitian, BuzzFeed, Huffington Post, Men's Health, Shape, Reader's Digest, and many more. When she isn't whipping up healthy meals in her wit's kitch, she can be found soaking up the LA sun with her pup, Mr. Chow. She is here today to talk about all sorts of nutrition topics. Welcome back to the show, Whitney.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show again. This is FBG Margo, and on the line today we have FBG Kristen.
Hey, guys.
And Kristen and I enjoyed talking to you so much that we had to have you back on the show again. So thank you so much for agreeing to do that. And we have a bunch of questions for you. Are you just ready to go?
Absolutely. Let's jump in.
So I'd love for you to talk about the keto diet, because I have a lot of friends who talk about keto. They're all about the keto right now. Can you talk a bit about what exactly that is and if there's any kind of science to it?
Sure. Yeah. The ketogenic diet is very popular right now, especially in like the health and fitness arena. But it really originally started as a treatment for epilepsy in children. So it's actually a therapeutic diet and it helps to stop seizures. And it's extremely effective at this treatment, but being used for other purposes like weight loss, and now they're starting to explore using it for neurodegenerative diseases. This is all relatively recent, I would say, like in the past 10 years or so. And the basic premise of the ketogenic diet is it's a 4-to-1-to-1 macronutrient ratio. So you're getting about 4 grams of fat for every 1 gram of carbohydrates and 1 gram of protein. And essentially what that does is puts your body into what's called ketosis or nutritional ketosis. And it's where your body's burning fat for fuel instead of glucose. And it basically requires a very, very low amount of carbohydrates. So like I said, the 4-1-1 ratio. And many people end up, when they're just doing this casually, not for a therapeutic reason like for epilepsy, a lot of people just take this as, okay, I'm going to eat a high-fat, high-protein diet and low carbohydrates. And that can get you into a state of ketosis. However, it doesn't necessarily have the same benefits as the ketosis that you would enter if you were, say, fasting, which results as the result of decreasing calories overall. And so a lot of the research out there does not show that the long-term benefits of a ketogenic diet for weight loss specifically are any different than any other diet. So initially, people really lose a ton of weight doing a ketogenic diet. And that's pretty much because when you cut out carbohydrates, you lose a ton of water weight. And this is for 2 reasons. One reason is that your muscles store glucose, which is what's found in carbohydrates. It's your body's preferred source of energy. It stores it in the muscles as glycogen. And glycogen also stores water with it. So for, I think it's like every 1 gram of, I may be wrong, but like every 1 gram of glycogen, your body's storing like 3 grams of water. So if you really store a lot of water because of this. So the second you stop eating carbohydrates, your body loses all that water immediately. And that can result in like a 5-pound weight loss right there. And then secondly is that when you're eating large amounts of protein, your body has to get rid of the nitrogen that's found in this protein. So the amino acids have nitrogen attached to them. And when your body breaks them down, it gets rid of them in the urine. So the more nitrogen you have to excrete, the more urine you're excreting, the more water you're losing. And so that's why when people start a ketogenic diet for weight loss, immediately they're like, this is awesome. It's working so well. I'm losing so much weight, but you're mainly losing water weight. And then, like I said before, the long-term 2-year studies that I've seen, and that's about the longest that we have on the ketogenic diet for weight loss, show that it's no different. No, the benefits are no different than any other diet.
So with all of this water weight that people are losing, can you talk about how that affects hydration? Does that make a difference?
Absolutely. So, I mean, in if you saw a clinical dietitian for this, if you're doing it for a therapeutic reason, they would absolutely increase the amount of water you were taking in, because you can easily suffer from dehydration due to the keto diet. Okay. So if you're doing it, you definitely need to be drinking a lot more water. But secondly, so besides the fact that it might not necessarily be beneficial for weight loss, it's probably not beneficial for your health in the long run. So we don't have any like long-term studies, more than 2 years, outside of looking at weight loss, on the overall health effects of eating a diet that's very high in meat and animal fat and low in beneficial carbohydrates like your leafy greens and your whole grains, which we absolutely know are associated with less disease. So we just don't know. And to me, it seems a little bit dangerous to be on a diet like that unless you absolutely need it for some sort of medical purpose like epilepsy.
Yeah, that makes sense, because that really seems to go against a lot of the things that we just sort of really, really know to be true and good for us.
Yeah. So you got to look at the overall patterns, and there are things we know are beneficial and things that generally trend towards not being beneficial for our health. And even though we don't have an exact study comparing a keto diet to a plant-based diet, for instance, we look at these trends to kind of determine which one is probably going to be the healthiest overall.
Right. So now you mentioned something about if you were working with a clinical dietitian, and you spoke on your site, I think in a video, about the difference between a registered dietitian and a nutritionist, and the fact that that's something that seems to confuse people a lot. So I wonder, could you explain a little bit about the difference, and whether, if I'm looking to work with an expert, are there times when I would choose one or the other?
Sure, yeah. So the main difference between an RD and a nutritionist, number one, is regulation. So the title registered dietitian is a protected title. The term nutritionist, in certain states, you have to be licensed to use that, and you basically have to be a registered dietitian to use the term nutritionist. But in the majority of states, it's an unlicensed. It's not a protected title. So here in California, anyone can call themselves a nutritionist, and there will be no legal ramifications, regardless of your level of expertise. And so what that means is that you have no idea what someone's training is. When someone tells you they're a registered dietitian, you know three things. You know they have a degree, they're a bachelor's or a master's in nutrition. You know they've completed a year-long dietetic internship of 1,200 hours, and that's over a variety of different dietetics topics. And then they've also had to pass a board certification exam, and they also have to keep up with continuing education credits every 5 years. So that's what you know that you're getting that. With a nutritionist, you really don't know. It could be anything. It could be a weekend course online. It could be a certification through a certified personal training association. It may be a longer program, but you just don't know because it's not regulated. And then secondly, in order to treat chronic diseases, that is regulated by the law, and only registered dietitians are legally allowed to treat chronic disease. So if you don't have that title, you really shouldn't be advertising yourself as being able to help with anything besides general wellness. And I still see plenty of people that are nutritionists that aren't RDs that are advertising that they help with like hormonal balance or PCOS or this or that. And legally that's not okay. But unfortunately, we really don't have a lot of regulation overall. So it happens.
So let's talk about foods and snacking before and after a workout. When is it okay to have a snack before a workout or after a workout? Is there some amount of time you should wait? What do you say?
So you don't always have to eat before a workout. That's a common misconception. If you're working out first thing in the morning, then you should be good to go. Your energy stores, that glycogen we talked about earlier, they should be full from your dinner the night before. As long as you had like a carbohydrate-rich meal the night before, you're good to go. Anytime you probably aren't going to be working out for maybe an hour or so, then I would say you could, not necessarily you should, but you could, if you feel like you need it, have a snack. And you always want to have a carbohydrate-rich snack before a workout because, like I said before, your body's preferred source of fuel is glucose, and that's what is going to help you maximize your endurance during exercise and give your body a quick source of fuel. So your body can absolutely use fat for energy, and it does. And the longer you exercise, the more your body goes into using both glucose and fat for energy. But initially, like when you're doing a sprint or a power lift, any quick movements, anything probably in the early stage of your workout, that's going to require something that breaks down very quickly into energy, and that's glucose. So I recommend about an hour before a workout, I would have something like a banana. If you've got a little bit more time, 2 to 4 hours, you could have a larger meal, maybe some toast if it's the morning, some oatmeal. But again, you're really focusing on getting in those carbohydrates and hopefully choosing a nutritious source like a complex carbohydrate. After a workout, you need a combination of both carbohydrates and protein. So you always hear people talking about having protein after a workout, and it's super important, especially when you're doing any kind of strength training where you're breaking down your muscles. You need to replenish those amino acids that were broken down during your workout. So you're going to want to consume somewhere between 15 and 25 grams of protein between 30 minutes and 2 hours of your workout. So that's the optimal time for muscle protein synthesis. Additionally, I mentioned carbohydrates, and that's because, one, you want to replace those glycogen stores that will become depleted during your workout. And then secondly, carbohydrates actually help your muscles use protein more efficiently. So it helps bring the protein into the muscles. So you're going to get the maximum benefit from your protein consumption if you're eating it with a good source of carbohydrates.
Awesome. So I have a follow-up to that. Well, we didn't send it over to you earlier, so if you want to pass, you totally can.
Oh, no worries.
But I have been hearing actually for the last 2 or 3 years, so much buzz about BCAAs. So could you tell us a little bit about what those are and whether we all need to be getting more of those? And if so, how you'd recommend getting them?
Yeah, so BCAA stands for branched chain amino acid. Those are leucine, isoleucine, and valine. And what studies have shown is that leucine has the most muscle protein synthesis building capacity. So it's really important that you get leucine with your protein source after a workout if you really want to get the maximal benefit. Leucine is found pretty much in anything that you're going to find protein in. So certain supplements now will highlight the fact that they add branched chain amino acids in, or they have this many grams of leucine. But pretty much anything that you eat, as long as you're having a normal serving of it, you'll probably hit those. So I'm not a huge fan of supplements, especially things like that. I just don't think they're really necessary. I think you can absolutely find them in a whole food source.
Yeah, and that leads me to, kind of to a related question, is just supplements in general. I'm wondering what your stance is, because I know we can get so much of what we need out of the food that we eat. But are there any supplements that you tend to recommend people take? And, I know that at this point you're in your 3rd trimester. What people need obviously changes with pregnancy. So I'm also curious as to whether that's changed your stance at all.
Sure. Yeah. So, my stance is always food first. Like you just said, you want to meet your needs through your diet if you can. But as you also just said, there are many reasons why people wouldn't be able to meet those needs. Medical conditions, elderly, pregnant women, and simply having a poor diet will make it so that you can't actually meet your nutrient needs. So in those cases, I absolutely advocate for supplementation. If you can't meet your needs in your diet, you need to get them somehow. I'm not going to tell someone not to take supplements. So for pregnancy, for instance, while you probably could meet your needs, it's almost like a safety net that we have these kind of blanket recommendations for pregnant women. So we always want pregnant women taking folate, DHA, which is the omega-3 fatty acid found in fish, because we know it's really important for prenatal brain development. You want to make sure vitamin D, iron, and calcium, although we don't actually recommend calcium supplementation because your body actually, when you become pregnant, starts absorbing calcium more readily. So the recommendations stay the same as a woman who isn't pregnant. But in those cases, and like for myself, I'm taking a multivitamin, and I'm also taking an algae oil DHA supplement just to make sure that I'm meeting all of my needs, even if I might be hitting them in my diet. But the reason that I don't really recommend supplements across the board is because in some cases, over-supplementation can be a problem. And at the least harmful side of the spectrum, you're just wasting your money. And a lot of the time, we also just don't really know. So I'm really not a fan of non-essential supplements. So things that are not vitamins and minerals. A lot of the herbs and extracts and things that just don't have research supporting them. I typically don't recommend those to my clients ever.
Congratulations, you are expecting right now.
Thank you.
So have you had any weird food cravings or anything like that? Or have you changed your diet at all for this pregnancy?
I have I'm typically a sweet person, and I've become totally a savory person. I don't know how to explain it, but like I'm constantly craving like salty foods and sometimes desserts and sweets, which I normally would gobble up, now make me a little bit nauseous. So I've been eating like lots of roasted vegetables, popcorn with nutritional yeast. I love pickles. That's not just an old wives' tale. For some reason, women love pickles when they're pregnant. And cream cheese. That was like one of my first and strongest cravings. That's also continued throughout my pregnancy. And because I practice a predominantly plant-based diet, sometimes I would have normal cream cheese, but I really wanted to be eating it more often. So I actually found a really great almond-based cream cheese that I've been enjoying that tastes just like normal cream cheese. That's the majority of my cravings.
Nice.
And thirsty, just being very thirsty all the time.
Yeah. Well, you got to drink water for two, right?
Yes.
Speaking of the dairy-free cheese, I need to find out what the brand was, but I was at a triathlon camp with a friend of mine last weekend, and he was making breakfast, and he made us little breakfast sandwiches, and he doesn't do dairy, but he brought out this cheese. And I was like, well, what witchery is this? And it was so good. It was a pepper jack cheese, and it was almond based.
Oh.
And it was melty, and oh my gosh, it was so delicious.
What was the brand? I'm like, tell me.
I don't know, but I'm going to ask him, and I'm going to tell you guys, because it was really good, because I've been, cutting down, or when I can, cutting out dairy.
Mm-hmm.
And that was such a good option. Like I would have never known.
There are so many incredible options out there now for dairy-free cheese. It's mind-boggling what they can do with it.
Yeah.
The one I mentioned is from Kite Hill, by the way.
Oh, good to know. Kite Hill.
Yes, Kite Hill.
So now on that same topic, you recently attended Natural Products Expo West. And I think that you saw a lot of really cool food trends, one of which we're probably talking about right now. So I'm curious, what trend or what products should I be stocking my supermarket for? And are there any that people need to know are coming and that they need to stay away from?
Mm-hmm. I'd say this year I saw a lot more plant-based convenience foods. So things that can be frozen and you can eat them later. And a lot of people would immediately associate that kind of stuff with junk food. But I think it's really important for people practicing a plant-based diet to understand that they don't have to make everything from scratch all the time. Like, it's just not realistic. And when you're busy and you come home after a long day's work, sometimes you just want something that's quick and easy. So it was nice to see a lot of products that are healthy, that are catered to people who don't have time to maybe be in the kitchen all day long. So some of the things that I saw, Hillary's has some really great, they have these like frozen millet mixes. And so they're like stir fries of millet, which is an ancient grain. So it's gluten-free and it's very high in fiber and protein. And they have a bunch of different flavors. So they have the one that's like a curry mix and it has raisins in it. And I love using those. Sometimes I'll add some tempeh to it or some beans or just eat it by itself. But that's a really great last minute dinner that you can throw together. Dr. Prager's had some new veggie burgers out that were really good.
Those are my favorites. I've got 2 boxes in my fridge or in my freezer right now.
Yeah, and so those are like just veggie and bean based. And I'll say, I know a lot of people think, oh, well, that doesn't have enough protein in it for me. It's probably somewhere between 5 or so grams. But when you combine that with, for instance, a sprouted whole grain bun that's going to add like 10 more grams of protein, you're absolutely hitting the amount that you should have at one meal. So I think people need to rethink that when they're thinking about planning out their meals. And that's a topic for another time. But I just thought I would mention that because I know some people might stray away from a veggie burger thinking it's not going to provide them with what they need. Some other things that I really liked, Daiya has some new burritos out that are absolutely delicious. Again, having that vegan cheese in there. And Kite Hill, the brand I mentioned before, has a ravioli, which is like so delicious. I forgot when I tried it that it was dairy free, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I couldn't believe that it was made with almond cheese.
I'm so excited to try that. I'm going to hit all the stores.
Yeah, it just makes for quick and easy dinners. Okay, so then some things to be wary of are, I think, the majority of the grain-free products. A lot of them are super healthy and they're great options. But what I fear is that consumers will choose them simply because they're grain-free, and I don't think that's a good choice. Grains are a very important source of the diet. Again, going back to the research and looking at population studies, we know people that eat whole grains have less chronic disease and live longer than people who eat refined grains and people who don't eat them at all. So one, you just don't really want to cut grains out of your diet for no reason. But secondly, is that when they're making these grain-free products, a lot of the time they're adding in tons of cheese and eggs to hold it all together. So like in a cauliflower crust, for instance, you're like, oh, it's cauliflower, it's really good for you. But the majority of that crust is really made from cheese. And you'd be much better off with a whole grain pizza crust than you would be with a cauliflower crust, at least if you're eating it on a regular basis. I mean, absolutely, eggs and cheese can be part of a healthful diet in moderation, but if you're buying all grain-free products, you really have to think about what they're adding in there to make these products work.
So you answered my question, one of my questions, which was about like your favorite foods to use instead of animal-based products, which was really interesting. So I want to ask you, is there or are there any superfood or foods that you think people should incorporate into their diet more often?
Well, I really think all fruits and vegetables are superfoods. They all have so many different, unique benefits. So I always tell people eat the rainbow because a lot of the time the color that you see in fruits and vegetables, the pigment is a phytochemical. And so the different colors have different properties. So you really can't go wrong. All fruits and vegetables, maximize them in your diet, they're superfoods. But overall, I would say like cruciferous vegetables. If you're going to pick one thing to eat more of, cruciferous veggies. And that's broccoli, kale, cauliflower, and Swiss chard. It's like the really fibrous, usually dark green vegetables. And those, again, are full of vitamins and minerals, and specifically the phytochemicals sulforaphane, which is a potent antioxidant and anti-cancer molecule.
Cool. And I want to add something that with the cruciferous vegetables that was a game changer for my husband is when you have something like kale and you're wanting to use that in a salad, massaging it a little so that it's and like tearing it so that you aren't feeding someone the stalk that they can't actually eat. I know that seems to people who have been eating it for a long time, that seems like, well, duh, Kristen. But, people who haven't been eating these things for a long time and are just trying to incorporate them into their diet, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't even chew this. How am I supposed to eat it? So yeah, like taking a few minutes and just like literally massaging those greens can make it so much more pleasurable an experience.
Totally. I have so many clients and friends who are like, oh, I don't like kale. It's too grassy. It's too hard. And they just obviously haven't had kale prepared properly. I would never eat kale unless it had been sauteed or, like you said, massaged with a little bit of oil. And it really takes like a good minute or two of getting in there with your hands and just really breaking down those fibrous strands. Yeah.
So now this is a less serious question than all of the scientific stuff we've been getting into. But so your Instagram account is really fun to follow. And the food that you share pictures of there, like it looks delicious, but it looks gorgeous. And
thank you.
You're welcome. And I know that, a lot of thought and care, I'm sure, goes into that. But a lot of us, even if it's not for work, even if it's just because like we want to plate a nice, a nice meal and we want to then also maybe take a nice picture of it to remember that, we want to be like you. So can you tell us how you take such lovely food photos?
Sure. Well, first of all, my food photos have not always been so lovely. It's been many years progression of learning what didn't work. So don't be discouraged if the first time you try to take some pretty pictures for Instagram, they don't come out well. But my first tip, you've probably heard it before, but it is because it is so important. It's like the number one thing that's going to make your photo is good lighting. And the best lighting that you can have is natural light, so from the sunlight, but not direct sunlight. So you want to be by a window, but not with like rays of sun coming in. You would want a window, a curtain that lets a little bit of light through it, so that you're getting kind of a soft light over the food. But obviously that doesn't work for everyone. Not everyone has a great window or can go outside. Also, you might be cooking at night, which happens to me a lot. And so I actually have what's called softbox lights. So they kind of replicate daylight, and then they also have a white screen over the front that makes it less harsh. So I'll use those if I'm shooting at night. And if I'm shooting during the day, I have a window in my house that I shoot it by. And for anyone who wants to try this at home, like, go explore your house. Like, the window doesn't have to be the one in the kitchen or anywhere that's natural to eat food. You can go in your bedroom. Point. Yeah. People automatically think, well, my kitchen doesn't have any windows. That's it. I'm going to take it in this yellow light. But yeah, just move around, like get close to the window. That's going to be the best thing. And really, when you have good lighting, the pictures that you'll take on an iPhone 8 or above, for instance, are almost identical to the ones that I take on my DSLR, if the lighting's good. So you absolutely don't need a really nice camera either. A really nice camera will help when the lighting's horrible, though. My second tip is to actually strive for imperfection in food photos. So I've noticed recently that my pictures, when they're a little off, like maybe you've got some crumbs on the plate or a bite taken or a hand's reaching in and grabbing something, people like that a lot more than something that looks very staged and static. And then lastly is some good editing apps. So you can download these on your phone. I like Visco and I like Lightroom, and both of those will allow you to play around with things like the light. If, for instance, it was a little bit darker where you took the picture, you can sharpen the picture a little bit. You can change the warmth. I always turn it down a little because when you are shooting indoors, you often have these yellow lights that will give the photo kind of a yellow tinge, which isn't preferable. So those are all really important things to do to your picture before posting.
Well, I just want to thank you so much. I mean, once again, you answered so many questions, and you're so interesting to speak to. I have one more question to ask you, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, we may have asked you this before, but Whitney, what was the last song you listened to before you did this podcast interview?
Oh my goodness, I can't believe I forgot that you were going to ask that.
Good.
Shoot. Okay, can I go to my Spotify?
Yes, of
you
course.
You sure can. We're not going anywhere.
I can never remember. What did I listen to? I was listening to Next Year, the Rack Remix by Two Door Cinema Club.
Oh, very cool.
I haven't heard that remix.
Nice. Well, thank you so much once again for coming on the show. I think we're going to have you on again. What do you say, Kristen?
Well, I did hear her angling for a episode 3.
Yep.
let's
So
do it.
Yeah.
Let's make it a monthly segment. This is the
Oh
last,
my gosh.
guys.
So fun. Although I guess now we're going to have to wait until that baby makes its appearance.
Yeah, it's coming quickly, so.
Love this show? Tell us why in a 5-star review on iTunes, and we'll read it on the air. Also, make sure you are a subscriber. If you want to reach out to say hi or have a question about a recent episode, yay, well, feel free to email us at podcast@fitbottomgirls.com. And if this podcast jives perfectly with your brand, consider sponsoring the show. Get more info by emailing advertising@fitbottomgirls.com. Find all kinds of Fit Bottom goodness online and on social media at Fit Bottom Girls, Fit Bottom Mamas, Fit Bottom Eats, and Fit Bottom Zen. And if books and movies are your thing, check out the other podcast I co-host called Book versus Movie, which you can find anywhere where you search for podcasts. Thanks for listening.